Hello and welcome to episode 37 of Take Your Points. I'm your host, Ronan Scott. On this week's show, I've got three guests. Conor from Derry, who has returned from the AFL and was playing with the Goalkeepers this year. Fionnuala Carr is on to talk about her recent column about equality in Camogie and ladies football, and former Antrim Goalkeeper Sean McGreevy is here to chat about the Ulster Championship so far, what he thinks of Anntrim and what he thinks about Lenny Harbinson's departure. So let's get started. So first, I'd like to welcome Conor to the show. Thanks for coming on, Conor. So just to start, how long has it been since you've returned from Australia, and how have you enjoyed settling back in to playing football?
Hello, Ronan, how's it going? It's been 3 weeks since I've been back, 3 or 4 weeks now, so I'm well settled in at home. I'm definitely enjoying being back, but I think some of the restrictions have lifted in Melbourne, so a lot of my friends are going out. Have a bit of freedom, whereas I'm locked down still, so that's the only bad thing about it. But yeah, definitely enjoying being back playing Gaelic and spending time with family and friends.
Okay, so you returned home from playing in the AFL, and I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about your decision to do that.
More the decision to return home was a mutual decision between me and the club. I think it was best for me to return home and pursue my Gaelic career and go back to university, with just the whole unknowns of the future with the AFL and with COVID and everything like that. So it was obviously, as you can imagine, it was a difficult decision. But me and the manager and manager of Hawthorn, Clarko, and a few others, thought it was the best decision for me to go home and pursue Gaelic.
Was the experience of playing over there everything you hoped it would be?
It was definitely everything I've hoped for, and even more. Probably going out there at 18. I was going out there just purely for the performance side and playing professional sport, but looking back on it now, it's all the experiences of meeting different people, living with myself, fending myself, and all the travel I got to done now that I got to do with the sport. It's something to look back on, and I was very lucky to be in that situation. And yeah, as I said before, it's everything I'd hoped for.
And I'm wondering, now that you're home, and then we've had Conor McKenna from Tyrone home as well, do you think that Irish athletes will continue to go out to the AFL?
Yeah, if I'm 100% for it. If a young Gaelic player gets a chance to go over and pursue the AFL, I say go for it 100%. You can ask any of the Gaelic players that have been out there previously, and none of them regret it. So, as I mentioned before, like, not only performance side of it and pushing yourself to try to get the best out of yourself, but the life experiences you get from being in the AFL system and moving abroad is, I feel like, more superior than what you'd get if you're staying at home and going to university in Belfast or wherever that is.
What have you thought of this year's Ulster Championship? Derry one game and lost in Ulster, but what did you learn about joining the setup?
Yeah, it was a weird one, the Ulster Championship this year, especially for me, because I felt like I was very rushed into it. Like, so the first week I was back training for Derry, and it's changed a bit since I last left, obviously, and with the whole COVID thing being a knockout stage, it put the price on the performance a lot more. But I felt like we have a pretty young team, and we have a new management group, new backroom staff, so we showed good signs in the game. Obviously, it's disappointing not to get a result against Armagh, but I'm sure people watching saw some good signs, especially in the second half. So it's a building block, and hopefully we can push on from there and get a good pre-season this year and tackle 2021 very strongly.
Have you noticed much differences to the way the Gaelic football is played now since when you left?
As I mentioned before, it's changed a lot since I last played. So I would have last played was school football for St. Pat's and maybe even minor under 21. So that was the highest I kind of got to. So going straight into a county setup, when you have the best of the best playing for each county, it's obviously a lot more difficult. And then the whole different tactics of Gaelic football now has changed dramatically over the past 5 years. So as you can imagine, I found that pretty difficult coming into the system and learning yeah, where I fit in the team and trying to hone in on my craft. So that's probably something I'll focus on in the next coming months, whether it be physically, mentally, or tactically. Yeah, it's just something I'm going to have to catch up on because I've missed out on it the past 5 years.
What do you think Derry's potential is going forward?
The potential for Derry is massive at the minute. As I said before, we have a very young team and a whole new setup really, and especially over the last 3 weeks that I've noticed, there's a lot of good vibes around the place and a lot of good chemistry. So there's no reason why we can't push on the next coming years. We're in Division 3 at the minute, and that shouldn't reflect on where we're at as a team. I feel like we should be pushing for Division 1. Like we held it up to Armagh, they recently got promoted to Division 1. So with a group of boys we have now, if we can all stick together and buy into the system and buy into the county, playing for the county, there's no reason why we can't push and play against the better teams like Dublin and Kerry, because I know on our good days we can put it up to those teams.
Okay, so how would you call this weekend's championship?
Look, Donegal obviously look very strong, so especially playing, I've just watched them over the past couple of weeks, and their win against Tyrone looked pretty impressive. But then also Armagh got promoted to Division 1, and they obviously put it past us the weekend, so it's going to be a tight battle. It depends on the weather conditions also, but yeah, I'm going to tip Donegal because yeah, they seem to be lighting up over the past month or so. Not even in championship, but in the league as well. So yeah, I'll go for Donegal.
Conor, thanks for taking part.
Thanks for having me.
Our next guest is Fionnuala Carr. Recently, Fionnuala wrote a column about equality in ladies football in Camogie, and she felt that perhaps Camogie and ladies football athletes are playing for the love of it when really they should be getting more respect. They're losing time and money. So I wanted Fionnuala to come on to talk about that. So Fionnuala, thanks for coming on. I wanted to interview about just this recent column you had, and so I wonder, could you tell me what inspired that piece?
About 2 weeks ago, the Women's GPA released a report that showed, called Levelling Playing Field, that just gave a couple of stats regarding where female inter-county players are compared to male inter-county players. A lot of the things that were discussed were probably basic standards that most people outside of the games would maybe assume that, you know, we probably get travelling expenses for travelling into training, and we wouldn't be out of pocket, at least for playing camogie or ladies football. And I think the report showed the stark reality of what it is to be a female inter-county player. I think it's only 6 or 7% of players get travelling expenses from their county boards. About 60% of them, 69% pay towards their own gym costs, 60% pay towards recovery costs, and then there's over 50% pay towards medical costs, and that will include physio and operations or anything that involves coming back from an injury. I just don't think that people realise the cost that was involved in playing in female sport. And then, you know, the report generated a lot of news coverage. A lot of people were, you know, talking about it and saying that it wasn't acceptable and that basic expenses were the way forward. But the column that I wrote just sort of identified, or, you know, give a bit of feedback to readers that shows the stark reality of what it's like is to be a female inter-county player.
One of the points you made was that players were taking part are out of pocket, out of money, and it's costing them too much to play. How serious do you think this situation is?
I don't think that money is a very touchy subject for people. Like, it's an amateur sport, but I don't believe that players should be out of pocket and substantially out of pocket. There was one report of a girl who lived in Dublin and travelled to her county training 3 times a week, and over this course of probably in a 9 to 10 year period, it cost her €50,000 to do so. Like, you're playing inter-county sport at a time when you're getting your education, you're getting into a full-time job, you're trying to buy a house, you're trying to create a living for yourself, and if you have €50,000 set aside to go and play for your county, it means that you can't get your deposit. You know, you can't put money towards savings, you can't buy your new car. All of your extra money or your surplus money each month is going to pay for your travel expenses to get to county training, and I just don't think it's right or it's fair. I'm not saying that we should be getting out of the pot that the men are getting. I'm not saying that we should be taken away from their money, but I do think that there should be more done in order to support female inter-county players so that they're not out of pocket.
And has anybody stopped playing because of that?
I personally don't know anyone that stopped playing with money being their main reason to stop playing. Some people just can't give commitment. I do think that it probably influences people a lot more than we realise. I know when, like, even going back to whenever I was a student or we're travelling in cars, like, you're putting £5 worth of diesel or petrol in your car, hoping that it'll get you to county training and back down the road again. Like, you're really scrimping and saving in order to get to your training. I think there's probably more reality for a lot of other people that they haven't been able to afford to keep playing. I don't know, it's not as prevalent in the men's game because they get their expenses and, you know, they're well looked after and well covered. I just personally don't know of anyone.
In the piece you mentioned that the Down County Board hadn't invited ladies footballers or Camogs to a jersey launch event. Well, how frustrating was that for you?
Yeah, I had included, outside of the expenses and the levelling of the field report, I had included like a small example of the recent Down GAA new kit launch. The jerseys are sponsored by EOS Solutions, and they've been joint sponsors for Down for a number of years now. It was the first of its kind sponsorship deal whereby the ladies footballers, the Camogie team, the hurlers and the footballers were all under the one sponsorship branch. It was a sign of things moving forward together for all players within the county. And you know, it might seem like such a small thing for a lot of people, and a lot of people might be rolling their eyes thinking, oh, here's Fionnuala Carr or another Camogie player or another ladies footballer given out again that they haven't got their photograph in the paper. And it's not really about that. If we were equal, or if we were respected for being inter-county players for Down, I think that we should have been asked to be at the launch. We have the same sponsor. They are very generous in their sponsorship towards Down Camogie. In the last couple of years, the ladies footballers and the Camogs have been the most successful teams at the business end of the year. And the ladies footballers won the Intermediate All-Ireland in 2014. We won the Premier Junior. We've also won the last two Ulster finals. We have been in an All-Ireland final and we have been in an All-Ireland semi-final last year. We are putting in the same time and effort and commitment as every other player that plays inter-county and Down, and it was seen that it was okay that it was just the men that launches this jersey. So small things in order to try and raise standards and create awareness and be equal. Well, if we are equal, then we should have been there modelling the jersey in the same way that the county footballers and hurlers were.
Can I ask, why do you think that ladies Camogs and ladies footballers do not get enough respect?
I think when you're talking about equality and respect and, you know, female players not getting the same amount, I don't think female players have been given the same opportunities that men have been given over the years. And, you know, I'm not talking about current generations. You're going back generations and decades of investment and time and money being put into men's sport because women were seen as second-class citizens. The world has changed and is continuing to change, and one of the biggest part of it is that we were happy to accept, you know, just getting on with things and not creating any fuss or not creating any dramas, where we have to now take the stand whereby this is not acceptable, and highlighting the differences between the two sports and the opportunities that are given to one sport more than the other. Like, I think it was only last weekend that there was all the main newspapers in the south of Ireland, and it was maybe 20 pages of sport on each of them, and not one report or preview for a female inter-county game. And like, at this time of year with COVID and everything, you know, there's more than enough opportunity to fill column pages and column inches and getting the information out there to people. It takes one photograph, it takes one snapshot of an action point in a game, and it's not hard to put it on the paper. I think that we will continue to have to fight and not stand up for ourselves and demand that the things that have happened in the past aren't going to be acceptable in the future. And it's not that families or clubs see the girls as any less anymore. We have the same in Clonduff, we have the same access to the field and the facilities and the pitches, and we're fully members of the club, regardless if we play camogie or hurling or football or ladies football. But I just think that whenever it's coming to exposure and awareness and opportunities, that we have to stop accepting things that happened in the past and start taking a stand and making things better for ourselves. And that also means continuing to improve as players, putting more time into their training. A lot of camogie players and ladies footballers now are using a lot of strength and conditioning. They're better athletes, they're stronger, they're fitter, faster, and their skill development is exactly the same as a hurler. So we have to continue to improve our players. We have to improve our games, give people, the opportunity to watch them, but let the people that are watching also enjoy them, seeing them for what they are. You're not comparing a camogie game and a hurling game. You're appreciating the female athletes and players as female players, and you're appreciating the men in the exact same way.
And what do you think would happen if the ladies footballers and the Camogs would get more respect? How would that affect the association?
I think if women were to get the same respect as men, I think the games would continue to flourish and grow. The games would become better. The opportunities would be there for female players. It would also encourage more young girls to want to play and to play multiple sports. There is an opportunity in the camogie and the ladies football to have dual players, and the more people that we can see in the paper on giving them the role model or wanting to be the next Niamh Kilkenny or Saoirse Noonan, who scored 2 goals for Cork and Cork City there at the weekend, wanting to be the next Niamh Mallon or Sir Louise Carr, and giving them someone who they want to aspire to. I think it'll only improve participation numbers, game development, player development, and it'll make us better athletes and players as a result.
Well, that's great. Thanks for your time. Our next guest is Sean McGreevy, the former Antrim goalkeeper. I've asked Sean to come on to talk about the Ulster Championship.
Hi Ronan, thanks for having me on the show.
Sean, to start, I wanted to ask you about your county Antrim. Knocked out at the weekend there, but what did you think of the performance? What were the good and bad points?
Yeah, just looking at the Antrim game and the positives, I think there's positives certainly to take out of it. I think if you base it on the mindset going into the game, there was probably a lot of deflation, obviously coming off not getting promoted. And I know with that mindset, when you're going in to Ulster Championship from still being in Division 4 and not coming out of it, there's no real momentum there, and it's very, very difficult for the guys to lift themselves. But I think Lenny and the backroom team did a great job to lift the guys. They certainly put it up to Cavan. Cavan didn't have it easy. Obviously, they stretched away a bit in the last sort of 10-15 minutes. But I think right to the end, there was always that sneaking possibility if Antrim could have got something, they could have rallied right to the death and made it difficult for Cavan. Cavan just always seemed to have them at arm's length once they got in front. But I think in terms of the certain players' performances, I think you have to look at the likes of some of the old hands, likes of Paddy Cunningham, Kevin O'Boyle, Mick McCann. I thought were all outstanding and a great example to the other guys in the team. It was always going to be difficult, as I say, but I think the fact that Antrim battled, they kept battling. That a very good sort of game plan going in. It was obvious that Lenny had set them up to be defensive, which in fairness is all you could expect. You sort of have to keep yourself in the game at this point when you're Antrim, and try and hit teams on the counter and get scores, and it's always going to be a bit of a dogfight. But I think Antrim set themselves out really well, and had good discipline throughout, and took in the first half, I think especially showed that they can live with it with teams above them. But it's just unfortunate as games go on. Usually you find the better teams comes through at some point, or it can be simply a bit of misfortune or a bit of luck. Obviously, if Paddy Gallagher had been able to hit the net, it would have been a different perspective. But as I say, in terms of things that could have been done better, simple mistakes probably like overplaying ball sometimes, running into two men when the pass was maybe on, shot selection at times. I think as the game went on, Antrim's shot selection sort of became a bit sort of unclear, or not they weren't in the right zone, or the right men for the shot to be taken. So there's them sort of things, but again, a lot of that comes with game time and experience and how to see out a game and the options. So I think in the whole, it was a good performance by Antrim, and it's something to build on. There's simple things can be taken out of it to improve on, but I think in general, Antrim should look at this as a positive and try and build on it.
The news this week, Sean, was that Lenny Harbinson has left as manager of Antrim. I wonder what sort of effect that'll have next year, and what do you think they'll improve on from this year's performance, because there was a positives in the result against Cavan.
Yeah, I think in terms of Lenny's departure, yeah, it's I don't see it as a major surprise. I suppose most people would probably have thought if the team didn't get out of Division 4 this year, and there wasn't some sort of a championship run, which was going to be very difficult given the circumstances of no backdoor and stuff. It doesn't surprise me that Lenny's made the decision to move on and let somebody else take the reins. It's very difficult, I suppose, for any Antrim manager coming in. If you don't take the team out of Division 4, I think that's the big expectation every year. Because I think automatically you're not going to build if you don't take a team out of 4. It's very, very difficult to then get a run in the championship. I know from being in that position as an Antrim player in Division 4 for several years, and once you go into championship, if there's no momentum there, with that boost of being out of Division 4 and feeling like you're a higher ranked team in Division 3, your confidence is low right away, and obviously most times when you're playing for Antrim, you're playing against a team in Division 1, 2 or 3 of the National League, so you're always underdogs getting into the championship, so it's always very, very difficult for Antrim. And if you're not out of Division 4, then the championship just becomes, a lot of players, I remember felt they were beat before they even went into the championship game. So I do feel for Lenny in the backroom team. I know from talking to a lot of the guys over the last couple of years that his attention to detail was top notch. And the work rate and the hours they were putting in was, they weren't ever doing any less work than any other county was putting in. So, he's been unlucky, certainly with the way things have gone in the league. A lot of near misses. I know the workload defeat was very disappointing, and I'm sure Lenny himself is probably still trying to make sense of that game. But it's a freak result that probably won't happen again, hopefully for a long, long time. But sometimes in a match, if you lose a goal or two early, a player's confidence can drop very quickly. And it can happen from time to time. I've been on the end of some defeats sometimes with Antrim where early days it's not going well, and the confidence saps out of players very quickly when they're in Division 4, and it can spiral and they just getting out of control sometimes. But I think Lenny probably feels that he's gone as far as he can with the boys, and just sometimes a fresh face coming in can lift players. I think he's give everything he could ask to give, and as well as the backroom team and the squad. There's no doubt them boys have worked hard this year and last year. So it's disappointing from Lenny's point of view. He deserved more out of his reign, and it's just unfortunate that it's come to an end. But I suppose it's nice for him to have the option to make that call himself.
There's 2 semi-finals on this weekend. It's Cavan Down and Donegal against Armagh. How far do you think those teams will go this year?
So I think Down will eventually come through that semi-final. Although I don't believe they're going to go much further. Simply on the basis I think Donegal are just head and shoulders above everybody else in Ulster at the minute. Again, Armagh are a team, an up and coming team. I think they're going to get better, and Guinea's obviously doing a great job there with Armagh. But I just at this point can't see how anybody's going to beat Donegal. I rate Donegal that highly that I think they're going to go very close to Sam this year. They've a great work ethic. They've so many quality players in there. And I just feel that Donegal have been around now a few years. Up there competing with the big teams, whereas the likes of Armagh, Down, Cavans and that are they're competing in divisions 2, 3. So the quality of opposition over a season does, I believe, have an impact on who how you go when you're competing against the big guns in the championship games. So again, yeah, I think I'm not saying Armagh won't put it up to Donegal. Probably will do for a certain part of the game. But I certainly feel Donegal have too much firepower and will come through by at least 4 or 5 points.
Finally, you're a goalkeeper, and it feels like the goalkeeper position is ever more important, or certainly our columnists talk about them a lot. But I want you to know how you think the position has changed since you were a player.
I sort of feel sorry for keepers these days. I think there's a hell of a lot more expected of them. Although it seems to be that a lot of them are very capable of playing the role that's expected from their team. It's compared to when I was back playing county level. There was a transition going on, I suppose, at the end of my career, where you were expected to sort of become a part of the defensive team at least, and be an option as the ball was filtering about the defence, and as a get out clause as such. Whereas now it seems to be that so many goalkeepers these days are have played outfield or are playing outfield for their clubs, and therefore have that confidence to get the ball and go out the pitch and be that link man if needs be. I never played as an outfielder. I was always a goalkeeper, so I didn't ever build up that sort of confidence or that timing in a way too as an outfielder, that to bring the ball out and know how to beat men and sort of be a link player. That was never part of my game, and it wasn't really expected, I suppose, of keepers back in the day. Whereas now it's just like if you're not one of these guys that can go out and play as an extra man, you're sort of you're not meeting all the criteria, so to speak. The free taking obviously is another one. Again, every keeper pretty much now is expected to be able to hit 50s and long range frees. It's incredible how much it's changed, and gone with the old days of making a mistake or dropping the ball in the net, and it's if you miss a free now, it's if you're not there as an extra man, you're getting told off. So I do feel for keepers in this day and age. The role is certainly more demanding than when I was playing. You had your pressures in a lot of respects when you went out in championship and you're playing in front of big crowds, but there's great role models out there now, the likes of Niall Morgan, Rory Began, guys like this. Even we're seeing now Cavan keeper coming out and a great link man, great free taker as well. So it's part of the game now, and I think going forward, a lot of you could probably turn an outfielder into a decent goalkeeper now, because, as I say, most of the role is about your kickouts. Your play as a link man, and to a lesser extent being a shot stopper, which is bizarre when you think of it that way, but it does seem to be. You're finding that teams are sometimes trying an outfielder in goals because they feel they can give them more with their skills as a player as opposed to a goalkeeper. So it's an interesting one, but certainly it has changed, and I don't think I'd be wanting to play in today's game with the demands on keepers. So probably got out of it at the right time, in fairness.
Sean, thanks for taking part. Thanks for your time. So that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more of these shows, they're all online. And I also encourage you to subscribe to the Gaelic Life at gaeliclife.com, where you can get great content every week. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next episode.